Good morning, all of you. Today we are going to discuss about Ricardo's theory of rent. In the last class, we studied about the factor pricing. Based on that particular information, we will see one by one. Today we are going to see the Ricardo's theory of rent. In the forthcoming class, we will have a wage theory, interest theory, and profit theory. Let us start with the Ricardo's theory of rent. The classical theory of rent is associated with the name of David Ricardo. He begins a group of a new settler in a new country. Imagine there is a new country, people are going to migrate there. Let us suppose ourselves the settler to unknown island, which we shall call Jawahar Island. Okay, that particular area region we used to call it as a Jawahar Island. After because David Ricardo explained in the context, so I am explaining in an Indian context. As we study the natural resources of Jawahar Island, we find the land to be four grades. We are dividing into four different grades. For our convenience, we call them as A, B, C, and D. Based on the fertility of land, we have classified this. We shall settle down in Tarapur. That is the portion which is named as A is called Tarapur. So people are going to stay there because out of that four, A is having more fertility. This is the most fertile land and gives us a large produce per acre. Enough land is available of this quality to satisfy all our needs at that moment. Therefore, it is a free of good and will not come in any price, that is rent, because we have enough produce and free to do the business. So there is no rent for that. But as time passes, the amount will be fed increase in number. This may be due to more immigrants. More people are start coming there and who heard about the good luck. So due to increase in population, the density of population is keep on increasing. At that situation, a time comes when all land of best quality has been taken up, but some demand still remain unsatisfied because the demand is keep on increasing as the population is increasing. So then we have to move to B quality land. It is inferior to A and is only 30 quintal. As far as A is concerned, it is 35 quintal produce, so high fertility. But because of the excess demand and overpopulation, now we are forced to take the B grade. That is B grade, the land B. There the yield is only 30 quintals. The same expenditure of labor and capital will be there, but only the produce will be 5 quintal is less. A will produce 35 quintal and B can produce only 30 quintal. Naturally, the plot of A now acquire a greater value compared to B. Why? Because the tenant will be prepared to pay up to 5 quintals of wheat in order to get the plot of A zone. All right, because the B will give only 30 quintals, it is free of charge, but A can 35 quintals, so that excess 5 quintal he is ready to bear and he can pay as a rent for that. This difference paid to the owner, that is, if the cultivator is a tenant or kept himself, if he is a owner, then it is economic rent because he can able to get more quintals of wheat. In the first case, when the cultivator is a tenant, then it is a contractual rent. Suppose he who doing the business is a tenant, then he has to pay the contractual rent to the owner. In the later case, when the cultivator himself is a owner, then it is not a contractual rent, it is an implicit rent. Both contractual rent as well as the implicit rent is economic rent only. The B plot do not pay any rent. To go a step further, we see that all the land of B quality are also been filled up. They begin to start doing business in C plot because of the more population and excess demand. Now even B quality of land becomes have a differential surplus with the C, as land A will increase further. So initially A is cultivated, and because of the overpopulation and excess demand, business is done in B land. There also it is further there is a excess demand and overpopulation, so C land is used. So A is greater than B, B is greater than C, so AB is greater than C. So though the owner of A will get more rent, and owner of B may get a moderate rent. When the demand increases still more, we are pushed towards the worst land D. It may be lesser compared to first three type of land. The D quality land has no rent charge and marginal land, while ABC can earn rent. This growing demand shows itself with the rising price. They rise high enough to cover the expenses of the cultivation on the lowest grade of land, that is B quality land. Let us suppose that 1 unit of a productive effort is equal to rupees 3,500. When only A quality land where the plot produces 35 quintals is under plowing, then the price of the wheat will be rupees 100 per quintal. Then owing increase of the price, wheat may rise to 110. Why? Because it is high, but land people try to capture that particular land. People are preferring to stay in that land, so the price will be 110. Only when B quality land is cultivated, it will produce 30 quintals of wheat. Then what happened? The A land can get a surplus amount, that is 5 quintal. So per quintal it is rupees 110. So 5 into 110 rupees 550 per plot. That is become a rent. When we are having two different quality of land, the superior quality of land may get the surplus rent. That particular rent, in this particular example, 110 rupees is per quintal. The excess cultivation is 5 quintal. So land A can enjoy the rent of up to 5 quintals and 110 rupees equal to rupees 550 as a rent. The difference, in other words, we may say, between the return from the plot of land above marginal plot, we used to call it as economic rent. This economic rent either be a contractual rent or it may be a implicit rent. Contractual rent means is a tenant. Implicit means the owner. Owner himself is doing the cultivation, then it is a implicit rent. Suppose if you lease out to tenant, then it is a contractual rent. But both contractual rent and implicit rent are coming under economic rent. Now, let's discuss further. The settler in the Jawahar Island realized that there is another way to increase the produce. Why not apply more labor and capital to the superior land and resort the intensive cultivation, because that gives better return. So why don't we apply more number of laborers and more investment in that particular land? This is done, but it seems that the law of diminishing return also there. So that is why if you see figure 33.1, this is 33.1. A land is having more cultivation compared to B. B having more cultivation compared to C, and C as compared to D. So based on the fertility, it has been changed. So now consider A, B, C, D are different doses of labor and capital. Instead of having grade of land, now we are considering the factors of production applied in a same grade of land. The first dose of yield 35 quintals. The second unit of labor and capital depends on A plot will almost definitely give lesser than the first. Why? Because it has more fertility. Now, we suppose it gives us only 30 quintals. So we have choice of either taking a new plot of B or cultivating A land with more intensively. If we adopt the latter course, the first unit of labor and capital yielding a surplus over the second unit. Which unit produces just enough to cover the expenses? So this surplus again is called a rent. As more and more unit of labor and capital is applied, the return per unit will keep on falling. That's why we used to call it as marginal costing. Now you can see that particular diagram here. There are four different lands. The cases described above to show rent is earned due to certain phases of better situated cultivation or being better situated in regard of the market. But better than of what? Of course, better than some other plot of land. This some other, that is a keyword, that plot marginal land which just covers its expenses and no more. Because the fourth type, D type of land, is covering only the expenses, not the excess. So this land is called no rent land. All rent are measured from the upwards. Above this, we can, if you see the diagram, land C can able to earn minimum level of rent because it is excess to that particular expenses of cultivation. Likewise, in land B and land A. In figure 32.2, you can see D is a quality of land in which produce only 20 quintals per plot is a marginal land. Here the return and costs are equal. It is a just worthwhile to cultivate the land since it covers the expenses of cultivation only. But there is no excess or surplus cultivation. So based on this, we can understand the Ricardo theory of rent is keep on saying first one based on the fertility, the high fertility land will be used first and it will migrate to the lesser fertility, and second one, that is a contractual rent. If the tenant is using, there will be a implicit rent when the owner himself is doing the cultivation, and when there is more factors of production is employed, definitely there is a marginal rent will be there. So these are all the terms we have. But this particular theory have highlighted certain point. No rent land. Why? How they have made? There is a new concept called scarcity rent. Now we can see one by one. It is quite possible that we may not able to spot the no rent land. It is very difficult to identify the D type land. Why? Because it may be paying scarcity rent. Number two, the owner might have invested some capital in it and interest thereon might be mistaken as a rent. No rent land may be some other country, or no rent tract may be in the form of rent paying area concealed in it. So now we are in a position to explain what is scarcity rent is. In our new country, Java Island, we at last come to the situation when all the lands have been brought under to plow and be cultivated intensively. The price rises still further under the pressure of demand. Population has been increasing fast. So our country has become old and no more land is available as we are in island country. So the prices of agriculture produce go up and therefore the income of the land is going up. Hence all land including no rent land D also begins to get surplus about expenses. This surplus above the cost of D quality land, our previous no rent land is a scarcity land. The superior land will paying this surplus over and above the differential gain. What is the differential gain? Will be the actual amount of rent. We may call it as a surplus. So this particular theory has been concluded in such a way. We can say that according to David Ricardo, the Ricardian theory of rent, rent is a differential surplus and arises from the fact that the land possesses certain peculiarities as a factor of production. It is limited to area and fertility varies. Besides, its a situation is fixed. Why? Because the rent result of two things. One is the fertility is more or less fixed by the nature. Number two, the total stock of land is fixed and cannot be increased. These are the two criteria which influence the Ricardian theory of rent. On the basis of all these criteria, Ricardo have defined the rent as, I'm reading that particular definition. This is the words given by David Ricardo. That portion of the produce of the earth which is paid to the landlord for the original and indestructible power of the soil. According to him, the fertility situation limited to total stock and these qualities, and which are original as well as permanent, give rise to the rent. So these are all the criticism made against the Ricardian theory of rent. I've mentioned few. The Ricardian theory of rent has been widely criticized under these grounds. It is pointed out that fertility of land is not original. We cannot say this is a high quality land, that is a less quality land. It's a man creation one. The second one is the idea of industrial objected to area, that is everlasting but not fertility. Continual cultivation exhausts the fertility. So fertility will not be one of the measuring scale. And we observe in case of land in India, lands reported less fertile and therefore less productive per acre today. So they were in the past only. Definitely, fertility of land cannot be quantified as we think, because subsequent doses of cultivation definitely decrease the fertility. The third criticism is certain American economists like Harvey have criticized the classical theory of rent on historical grounds. They say that cultivation did not begin with the most fertile land when the first settler arrived in America. It's very fact that where we can able to stay, we can say, but we cannot choose which is the most fertile land and we can go and stay there. Migration is not that. Some land they need. Suppose it is a high fertile, they are blessed. They will do the cultivation. So, based on the historical background, this theory of land is not the right one. The reason was that some of the most fertile land were covered with a thick forest, while others open for enemy attack. And some other criticism also there. It is said that rent is not due to differential advantages only. Even if all lands were uniform quality, rent will arise. So because that one concept called scarcity. When there is a scarcity, rent will be paid, and not because of the differential advantage. Then one more criticism, regarding theory does not say why rent is paid. It only tells us the superior land commands high rent. In some other grounds also, it has been criticized because this theory is an imaginary one. The concept of marginal land is said to be imaginary, theoretical, and not realistic. It also urged that no special theory of rent is necessary. Demand and supply theory, which explain all values with the rent also. So these are the some of the criticism given in the against to these particular Ricardo's theory of rent. So let me sum up again. First, there are four different theories: rent theory, wage theory, interest theory, and profit theory. Today we are seeing the rent theory. This theory was given by David Ricardo. So he just taken an island and he divide into four, A, B, C, D, based on the fertility. So high fertility land will be used first, and then it will be migrated to the next grade of land. Based on that, economic rent will be received. That economic rent either be contractual rent or it may be a implicit rent. And one more concept of rent is that is called scarcity rent. Based on that, there are four different things. When the expense is equal to that particular return, then it is called no rent land. Based on that grade, another three will have excess. That differential pricing will be converted into rent. So this theory have been criticized in different ways. With this, I'm completing the class. If you have any doubt, you can ask me now.